us. Well, Rick Macci and Dr. Niva, good morning, good night. I'm not sure. Maybe you can tell us about that. And welcome to the Great Coaches Podcast.
It's good to be here.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
I don't know if it is good morning. Dr. Niva, could you tell us where you are in the world, what time it is, and what you've been doing so far today?
Well, yeah, no, it's 3 in the morning here in Boca Raton, Florida. I've been up for a few hours. I've already run a half mile, had breakfast, petted the cat, so ready to go. So I jump on the court in a few hours, so this works out perfect.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
well,
Rick got me ready to go this morning. It's 3
this
o'clock.
This is the earliest interview we've ever had, so it'll be a great case study for all those people listening on the benefits of an early start to the day.
Hey, I like being first. I'd rather be first than worst, so that's good. We're the first. That's good.
Well, I'm going to start, Dr. Niva, with you if I can. The book is called A Billion Dollar Mind, A Practical Guide to the Game of Life. Now, could you tell us what was the impetus to put the book together with Rick?
So why did I decide to do it?
Yeah.
I love mental strength. I'm so passionate about that concept. I think it can change people's lives. It can make people win matches and win in every single way. So the book is really important because I think it's a game changer for people and how they perceive everything. And so throughout my life, I was thinking, I was like, gosh, some people are able to maximize their day, and some people can't do anything. And some people who have a lot of talent, they're not able to do anything with that talent because their minds are not tuned. And so I would always really study the subject. And then I visited Rick at his academy, and there's like so many positive affirmations, we call it Maccisms, in his academy on boards. And I loved seeing them. And I knew one day I was like, I'm gonna write a book. I can just put all these Maccisms in a book, and I know it's gonna be a great bestseller. So 5 years later, I came up with the idea, and I just mentioned it to Rick on his tennis court. I'd come to see him for an award, and I just said, "Hi, Rick, I have an idea for a book on mental strength." And it was just, I didn't think he even paid attention to that. I was like, "Oh," I left, and then 2 weeks later during work, he texted me. He's like, "Where's the book?" I had no clue that was going to happen. I had no clue. And it was like fire. It's been the best journey ever since. I thought this book could change not only the lives, of course, my patients and of course, tennis players and young tennis players, but it could also change the lives of the world. Because if we recognize how our thoughts impact everything we do, we can change our life.
Oh, fantastic. I'm going to come back to these Maccisms as we move through the interview, but I want to, Rick, I want to come across to you and I want to talk about impacting people's life because my experience of tennis is not as deep as yours, nowhere near as deep. It's probably limited to watching the Netflix series. But in that series, it looks very much like a dog-eat-dog environment. However, when I read about you describing your philosophy, it's more about being a life
Say that
coach.
again.
Yeah. I'm going to start. I'll
Wait.
start at the start and do it again.
Yeah, the volume's a little low.
Okay. How's that? Bit better?
Yeah.
You
As
got
in
me.
Australia, better. Better. I teach people from all over the world. I know it all.
Oh, very good. Well, I want to come across to you if I can, Rick, because my experience of tennis is largely limited to the Netflix series that goes behind the scenes. I have been occasionally to the Australian Open, but not very often in my life. But tennis really seems to be a really dog eat dog sort of environment behind the scenes. But you describe yourself more as a life coach than a tennis coach. I'm wondering how you bring this idea of the whole person and their development together with elite level coaching.
First off, I love the question. And you're right. I'm probably more of a life coach than a tennis coach, even though I'm heavy into the biomechanics and obviously the technical and the strategic. But, I deal with a lot of youth, and no one knows what's inside a child. And I just try to extract greatness, okay, and get them to believe and try to develop courage and confidence, and there's an art to this, and the mental strength part of it is the wild card. Because in tennis, you got 20 seconds to flip it in your mind like it happened 20 years ago. And it's not who's the best athlete's going to be the best player. It's how you handle those key moments. And I try to teach that, at a young age to get them to look at it differently than just forehand, backhand, and serve. Because we all know that you can have a better forehand, backhand, and serve and still get beat easily. You know what I mean? It's all how you handle things. And this is what I kind of do, create the environment. It's a cafeteria, a smorgasbord of everything when I teach people. But it's always how I've been put together. And it's not just, like I said, a technical thing. And so once I get them to think of it from the mental point of view, then I get them to be more positive. I have them imitate greatness, what they see on the pro tour. They're the leader in the clubhouse. So it's the wild card. It separates great from good. And if you ever want to be the best you can be, it's always a game of inches from one ear to another.
I love this idea of giving youth courage and confidence. People listening have got kids, and a lot of those kids are playing sport, but it might not be at the elite level. And I don't want to reduce everything you do in the academy down to a soundbite. But is there some advice you could give us on helping our own children develop this courage and confidence that you talk about?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I work with all ages, all levels, whether it be a 5-year-old starting out, the best 8-year-old in the world, or people on the pro tour. So, or the number one 80-year-old guy in the United States. Like, I teach everybody, so, but for any parent, their goal should be support, always encourage, always motivate, dream big, think big, you can do it, and be supportive. Because I think a lot of times, no matter what sport they're in, they forget their kids first and an athlete second. They forget that because the brain takes longer to develop, it takes longer to reason. You know what I'm saying? So that would be my advice. The parents should support, provide the environment, be positive, no one to hug them, no one to give them a little kick in the butt, because you gotta push, because fear is the greatest motivator in the history of the world. So there's an art to this, but unfortunately parents kind of get lost and they're in the moment, and it's not where you start, it's where you finish. I've seen that movie many times. I've had the best players in the country, and it's like, whoa, now they're top 20 in the world. So it's a long-term process. Parents have to understand that, but having your kid around a positive environment and always encouraging, whether it be watching YouTube or motivational speakers, because we're always aware, hopefully, what you put in your mouth, but we're not aware what we put on our brain. And this is huge. Okay, this is huge. And I've just seen over my career how I've affected the mindset of get the most out of everybody's ability. And when people come back, it's not always about, hey, you really helped my serve or forehand. It's how I look at life through a different lens, through the work ethic, how to handle things differently, not get too high and low, and maintaining a positive attitude. And they pass that down to their kids, like Christian Root. I taught him, Casper's dad, winners find a way, losers make an excuse. And he said, I learned that from my dad. I learned that from Rick Macci, and that stuck with him. And he's probably mentally very calm on the court if you've ever seen Christian, Casper, which you have. So that's the best compliment. So any parent out there, to me, that's their job, to always remember their kids first, and whatever sport they're in, they're an athlete second.
And Dr. Niva, you obviously deal with people who've got disabilities. Does that mindset from a tennis style, does that work as well in your field of business?
The mindset of what Rick just talked about in terms of
the positivity, the parenting.
Absolutely. That's the whole same theme can be taken to patient care. But what I love about Rick and what I've seen about him and what I've learned from him is that, say a student makes a mistake and they're hitting their serve, or they hitting their forehand, or even if they like hit their racket on the ground and they're mad, he never gets upset. He only just guides and really encourages, and visualize positivity is very important. So a lot of coaches will get upset and be like, I'm disappointed, why didn't you do this? And there's no negative feeling. I think that same concept can be translated in a patient environment where I'm with patients, and many of them will be in wheelchairs, or they're not in wheelchairs yet. But it's that same positive encouragement that's so crucial for them. They cannot do something. They may not be able to walk to go to the bathroom, but you have to kind of say, okay, what can they do? What can they, to appreciate what can they do? What have they still left? What are the things that they really enjoy? So it's a different framework. It's not achieving or tennis in terms of, number one in tennis, but it's like saying, okay, let's reframe what we have right now. It's just like you do with kids. You have to reframe what they're doing, make it positive. For patients as well, reframe almost every single day, every single minute, because these patients are struggling. And so there are things that we use, especially what I have in the book. We describe that. Number one, we think great gratitude is really important. So gratitude for whatever they have. Maybe they can't walk to the bathroom, but yeah, they can use their hands. So they're very grateful that they can still eat. A lot of times that's a helpful. Many, many, many times it's humor. So a lot of times when we're in the patient's room, when there's something that can be funny, we tend to laugh at it. And that changes the entire mindset from making something negative or a struggle to being much more positive and fun.
Right, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. I mean, it's just interesting how you're transcending it across, life, whether you're a superstar or you're struggling. And by the way, you both talk, you actually take that out and to get that out from the people, which is great. I've got a question, Rick. When you talk about the environment, when you set out for the tennis academy, what kind of environment were you trying to create, and how has it morphed into what it is today?
First off, great question. I didn't really try to create any environment. I just lead by example. You know what I mean? I'm the first one there, never sit down. I still pick up the balls. So that alone, without saying a word, is powerful to the kids, and then how I deliver the goods when I teach or I give a group speech to the parents and the kids. It's just, but it's consistent. Consistent is greatness. That's the leader in the clubhouse. Okay, everybody can have a snippet or a moment in time, but consistently every single day, delivering the goods, the same positivity. A lot of times kids might miss a shot, okay? And when I tell them, don't worry about it, 2 more inches, 5 more pounds, you'll be balanced and that will go in the corner. They missed it because they're 8 years old and they're still a little pipsqueak, So I look at it differently. Instead of saying, oh, what are you doing? You should have hit high over the net cross. There's moments when I would go there, but there's all these signs at the academy, motivational signs, okay? Probably over 100. And without me saying a word, they look at something. Because when you look at it, you see it, then you might believe it, and then you might feel it. So without me saying, hey, there's signs everywhere. It's motivational heaven. The academy's like Disneyland and Candyland all wrapped in one, and so it's powerful. And I just seen through my career how that has affected, whether it be Capriati, Venus, Serena, Roddick, Sharapova, Pierce, Mosquito, Rude, Kennan, and all the people that have won national titles, or people that, just went on to do this or that, not just people that we all know about, and they use these sayings. They don't have to go on YouTube. It's right there, and they hear it every day, and I always tell them, always appreciate what you have, not what you don't have. And you should say thank you every single day to the coach or whatever when you leave the court, and have that gratitude. And that's one thing I loved about Richard Williams. And people didn't understand this. Every day the girls brought their books to the court. And when it rained, they went in my office. And every single night, good, bad, happy, sad, the girls would say, Rick, thank you very much, and give me a hug or a fist pump. Now, sometimes Serena's fist pump was a little authoritative, but other than that, okay, that's Richard Williams' life lessons, you know, and when you have that balance, and it's hard when it's a bad day to say thank you to someone. And I see how all the kids say that. And it just helps them become a more well-rounded individual. And I'm kind of almost doing their parents' job a little bit because they might listen to someone who's kind of been there, done that, and has helped mold greatness. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. And I just feel you can, when kids are having fun and they're motivated, you got to know when to go for the jugular. I get that. And I do that too. But I just see how I can expedite the learning curve. I make things happen quicker and I get them to believe, you know what I mean? And get them to think big. Whether you're going to be this level, or whatever you do, it translates then obviously in the life, how to solve problems and look at things differently because we're all going to react, but we all react differently. And when you react positively and frame it differently, you don't feel as much stress, you have more energy, and you're on to the next problem that you can solve.
I think it's a fantastic example for all of us. In fact, you know, you're right. In the movie King Richard, and I say this as a father of two girls, he was always trying to elevate their environment. And I can see why bringing anybody into your environment would be elevating for them and would be challenging for them. But
it's interesting you brought that up because I got to dive in here. Even when they were 10 and 11 and they would miss a shot or we were working on something, it was always about Hingis, Navratilova, Kleisters, Henin, Capriati. It wasn't about playing a 12-year-old. You know, it was always, they would have got that. We got to make it a little better. Always thinking big. And, you know, at the after party, both VW and Serena said, Rick, we were literally brainwashed by you and Daddy become number one. You know what I mean? What I mean by that, it's not a heavy duty statement, brainwashed. It's that the environment. Now you got to have the thoroughbred to win the Derby. I get that. But even if you're a donkey, I can make you the best donkey you can be. But when they said that, that's beyond powerful. The power of belief and expectations. You know what I'm saying? To push yourself. And so that's huge. But that's why I love Richard Williams. He was always about life lessons. Okay. And we were definitely on the same page.
I know Jonathan wants to ask you about visualization, but I'd like to do a follow-up if I can. Rick, before Rick, you talked about tennis is a game of inches, and you pointed to your ears being the inches between your head. And I'd like to ask both of you this question, if I could, and maybe start with Dr. Niva, because tennis for me, you're locked in. It's a solo game, and I mean there are doubles, but largely you're by yourself, and you see the athletes often mumbling to themselves, talking to themselves. They're very locked in their own head, and I'm wondering if I could start with you, Niva, how you work with people when it comes to their self-talk and the way that they are responding to the challenges they're facing. I know you can help them reframe, but what happens when you're not there? I'd really love to get both of your perspectives on that.
I love that question, Paul, because that's the essence of the book, is our self-talk. It's us versus us versus ourselves. We are kind of competing with our own self. And we have to talk to ourselves to make ourselves positive and think positively and believe positively and get into that next level of life. So, for example, if we are struggling with our own negative self-talk, everyone does it, our own negative self-belief, there are techniques in the book, such as positive affirmations. That's very important. We start saying positive things. I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to win this. I'm going to have a great day. These positive affirmations are very important for self-talk. Another thing that we can do, I describe so many techniques in the book, with smile every morning, 15 minutes. There are exercises, people just smile in the mirror. That is a very positive thing to do. There are other things we can do that I really think are crucial, and I talk about it very often, is the thinking loops. When we are aware of our thought processes, our recurrent patterns we have, then we can stop them in the tracks before they occur. So, for example, if we have a thinking loop that recurs in the same thought process of a negative emotion, when we're aware of that thinking loop, that process, we're like, oh my gosh, we're thinking down that path, then we can say, okay, we're going to stop that thought. That's what I do. And when you have that awareness, you can do it almost every hour and watch your thoughts, watch the emotions behind those thoughts and stop them. And then I could go out more and more techniques, but also journaling. So when there's more like every night or in the morning, getting into the habit of journaling every single day so that we can watch our thoughts and how we are carrying out our days, what we're doing, how we're relating our thoughts and our emotions and our actions. So very important. And these are just a few of the techniques that are taught in the book, but very, very important to watch those thoughts and be able to create that positive energy throughout the day. You can see that. See, we have a new baseline that when I'm with Rick, it's such a positive environment, very positive energy generates that positivity. And then I match that. I like that. As soon as I have a negative thought and a negative emotion, I can feel it. So I'm like, okay, I got to stop that right now. I don't want to be in that frequency. So that's a very important habit to create.
Dr. Niva, I've got a follow-up question
Yeah.
on that. There's a great,
Sure.
well, not necessarily a great quote for you in the Billion Dollar Mind. You were saying you were on your bicycle and you said, failure in relationships, failure in life's grand tapestry, and failure in my career pursuits. And I'm looking at you now and you're this buoyant, bubbly, smiley, laughing person. And, you know, I think a lot of people who would read the book would say, oh yeah, you two have already got it. You know, we can't get that, but you obviously have. How did you transform from that quote to actually where you are now?
Oh my gosh, that's the key to this whole book. How did I transform? I remind myself of those moments and I say, wow, where have I come? I'm from where that's why I wrote this book. I said, I have come so far because my life before was nothing like what it was now. And the way I did it was just so much time with myself. There were hours and hours devoted to thinking about what I liked, where I wanted to be, what I thought was more important than anything else, and what motivated me. Because a lot of times people do not spend time with themselves. They do not give themselves enough credit and respect and love that they deserve. So what happens? We go into this routine, this automated mode. We're like just become a robot. Morning, evening, go to work, we come home, we watch some people just watch TV, they avoid conflict and then they go to bed. They forget to talk to themselves. And as soon as I started doing that, I started recognizing what I was thinking and what was coming into me, that sensory input we talk in the book. I started writing it down. There was negativity every single day in my personal life. There was negativity from work, from personal relationships, everything I was doing. So I had to change that environment. Then I had to figure out what was the most important thing. And then I realized that I really loved uh, positivity. I loved hard work. I knew what I started recognizing I loved love. There were things that I really loved that I needed in my life. Some people like money. Some people like food. Some people like traveling. There were things that other people like. Those things I don't like. I just knew. Kept gravitating the same thing. Mental strength was something I did. No one had to pay me. I would listen 4 or 5 hours a day for lectures. I love that. So when I realized what I loved, then I became one with myself. That's the most important thing. And I think people don't spend enough time. They don't talk to themselves. They're like avoiding it. They're watching TV. They're on their phones. They're on social media. We do not give ourselves enough time. And I think that's one of the most important things to do.
Let me chime in here. And I'm going to back the truck up to when she first started talking. Everybody has to understand your toughest opponent is the person in the mirror. So that's the first thing. It's not everybody else in the world. There's the biggest answer in the mirror. That's the starting point. Okay. Now you got to want to change if that's what you want. Some people like to be negative. Some people like to make excuses. Some people like problems. They get on that merry-go-round, that hamster just going around and round. You got to understand, you got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable, but you got to want to change first. Everybody likes a compliment. So why don't you compliment yourself? We get into this routine every day. And, like myself, I'm just such into a routine my whole life. you become a machine, you know, in a different way. Then you can spread that to others. But it comes down to choice and wanting to change. Some people only get like they're only happy maybe when it's Friday or it's the middle of the week. They should appreciate every day. Thank God it's every day. It's a starting point of how you're looking at everything. And then from there, you know, you go. But everybody lets everything control them. And you got to control the situation. All of us have problems. All of us have the same stuff. How we deal with it is a different animal. And in what I do for tennis, that's what separates a Djokovic, who's an amazing athlete, the GOAT, and Kyrgios from your neck of the woods. Probably one of the best athletes ever, but no slams in the back pocket. Okay, that's a whole different level we're talking about, but it's the same with life, you know? And you got to understand what makes you happy. What makes you happy? Some people are happy complaining. Okay, so then you get what you deserve. You know, so it all starts from the beginning, and from there, it's not going to happen overnight. You can't look at things like, well, I want to be like that. You got to understand, to be like that, you got to take the stairs, not the escalator. No one goes from A to Z. You got to go B, C. It's little steps, but people are impatient. They want it right now, especially in today's world. And the last time I looked, to build a great house, it's brick by brick.
I love that. I'm gonna, oh, sorry.
No, go, Dr. Niva, go.
No, I think one of the exercises I do to kind of figure out what I like or what people like in general, and I do this in the clinic every day, is I always say, look, if you had 3 months left to live, what are you going to put in those 3 months? Then you know right away your priorities. That's when things shift very quickly. So then you know what you like and what you don't like and what you want. And it may take time to think about it. I can make my patients do that all the time and do that exercise. 3 months left to live. And sometimes you could even do another exercise where you're kind of mentally thinking, if I had to do my life over again, what would I do? And I would let everything happen that I want. That's a crucial one, because that's one thing that personally I did was, I remember there was a moment in my life when I had a certain personal tragedy in my family. I remember I felt like I had just died in that moment. And then I said, that's enough. I'm not living someone else's life. I'm not living my parents' dreams. I'm living my dream. And I was like, then I realized I needed to figure out about me. So yeah, I was like, okay, if I had died and come back, what would I want to do? And then you live your life without fear.
Oh, it's a wonderful. So what, and you do unpack that a little bit in the book, and it's well worth reading for people that are interested. But Rick, I'd like to ask you, I mean, the evidence of your approach to coaching is clearly visible in the performance of your athletes. But what if we take a long-term view? What if we look over the life of these people when they leave the high performance environment that you've created for them? How does the things they've learnt either deflect or impact in a positive way the rest of their life?
Well, it's huge. You know what I'm saying? Because all the kids, I have them have a journal. I have them write it down. When you write things down, it's powerful. You know, like I said, what you put into your brain all the time is huge. And, you know, tennis or whatever sport, that's just a little microcosm of the game of life. But there's so many common threads with solving problems. You're on your own, like you said earlier, it's one-on-one. Tennis is brutal. And that's why some people are better at doubles. They got a therapist on the court to say, I love you, and they kiss and hug, and they forget that emotion of failure. But no, it's used as they go into the real world, because you've already kind of had a snapshot of what's coming down the road by playing tennis or any really competitive situation, even if it's a team sport. So it's huge. Hard work, dedication, being on time, having the ability to remember, to forget. That's huge. You got to remember to forget, but don't forget what I told you to remember here. So at the end of the day, all these players, when they come back or we talk or whatever, they see what happened when they're at the academy, especially if I work with them a lot privately, but just the overall environment. It's huge, and it's like live and in color, you know, that they've experienced, and they can pass that down. So it helps them in so many ways. I can't even express it, because they just see how effective it is. And then the impact I've had on some high-level athletes go on to have so much success. It's much more, as you guys know, than forehands, backhands, and serves. You know, you can be the leader in the clubhouse in that and just be a teaching pro or whatever, or be a good pro. But greatness is the mental part. And when you can get in someone's head to look at it like that, that's going to help them. See, I don't change strokes, I change lives, and that's going to help them down the road in the game of life.
I'm a living example of your student.
I taught her back in the day. Listen, she was #1 in the South, her and her sister. She has a twin sister, and she's a very good player. She made the right decision. She went to Harvard, and she's one of the best doctors of what she does on the planet. Okay. And her mind's made of granite. So I'll leave it at that.
All of Rick's lessons came to my life. I remember when I was in college at Harvard, he was just so positive and very, very success oriented, which I love. Why waste your time on something if you're not going to be #1? He's just got a great, at least I love that. You know, a lot of people say play for fun and, just enjoy. And I wanted to vibe with that mentality of being awesome. So being #1 in something was always important to me. And I think Rick had that philosophy when I was training under him. So if you're not going to be #1 in tennis, be #1 in your field in medicine and do something great in that career. And then when I'd come back and visit him, all those positive affirmations that he had, the Maccisms around, like, I love competition, always encouraged me, not help me at work. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not going to be afraid of competing. I'm going to have that positive attitude. So throughout my career, I've seen how much he's impacted me as a person. It's been amazing.
Let me chime in on that about, just people, be positive. I mean, what kind of statement is that? The world is not rainbow, lollipop, and sunshine. Okay, we got to understand that. You're going to have problems. I like problems. Okay, I don't create problems. I solve problems. Okay, it's a very different way you got to look at things, but everybody's on the same merry-go-round. Most people, they let what they see on TV or their environment or the people around control them. Then they become creatures of habit. And we both know there's 2 types of habits, good and bad. So at the end of the day, when we say, oh, just be positive, people let things control them. You can be positive or respond to anything any way you want to. And I said that earlier. But, when I coached Dr. Niva and her sister, okay, the determination and the way they would listen, okay, and that carried over into her work ethic, okay, and how she handles things. That's the best feeling in the world to any coach.
Rick, it almost sounds like your athletes, I don't know if that's the right word, the people that come and train with you, it sounds like they change you a little bit as well.
They change what?
They change you a little bit as well.
Maybe, but listen, this isn't cloning. It's not one size fits all. How you say it, why to say it, when to say it, who to say it to, how do I talk to an 8-year-old is very different. When to speak louder, when to speak lower, when to hug someone. I read the tea leaves, I take the temperature, I go in and out like a boxer and figure it out. Then dealing with the parents, that's a whole nother podcast. I should be in the Hall of Fame just for putting up with Richard Williams, When I tell him that, he goes, you should be. But no, listen, that's a whole nother thing. And at the end of the day, a winner finds a way, and you keep going. But it's not just all positive. It's how you say it and how you set it up to come in, and because you got to have balance. It can't just be everything's great. Everything's great. No, I'm not saying that to anybody listening. It's not like that. Okay. And that's the art of coaching. If there's any coaches like listening to this.
Hey, follow up on that one. In the book, you talk a lot about visualization. And, you talked about building a house, you start at the ground. How does that work in visualization? Because if I'm visualizing myself as a sports person, it's something I could never achieve. So how do you keep them grounded, but excited and thriving to get there?
Do you want to do that?
Absolutely. I love the concept of visualization. I think we should not limit ourselves in how we visualize. that what we want to be and how we want to perform physically should be as beautiful and brilliant as our mind can conceive it. Because whatever we can conceive in our mind, we can achieve. Even though you feel like you're not going to get there, you just said that. I think you think you're not going to get there. That itself is limiting yourself already. You should be able to visualize yourself in that perfect, ideal performance, and the beauty and the brilliance of whichever your body can do, and that can give you that motivation to actually get there. That's the art of visualization, is to be able to visualize in the best possible way. And that happens not only just in sports, but also I talked a little bit about people who are disabled or have a weakness or are recovering. Even just the thought of a motor action can actually start triggering the motor nerves to recover. Same thing, if even just that thought of what's a sport that you like to play, Jonathan? Do you have a favorite sport?
I like golf or most sports actually.
All those words. So yeah, whenever you're even, I visualize every night I go to bed, not only just what I'm going to do the next day, but also sports. I don't know why I have a habit of it since I played tennis. I visualize myself playing tennis or a certain sport or biking, which I love. I love the visualization because I see myself doing it in the perfect way. And then even if it's not perfect, it's on the way there. It's in the right direction.
I love this question. It's in my wheelhouse. You know the saying, seeing is believing. People don't have discipline. They'd rather run and sweat. That's good. That's a physical thing. But how many people train mentally? I guarantee, especially we're talking athletes at the highest level, every one of them does it. They're not going to tell maybe the secret sauce or exactly what they do, but they see it. They feel it. They smell it. They've been there, done that. Okay. Then when they do get in that situation, there's more of a calmness in their mind. And I tell this story real quick about VW, Venus Williams, when she got to the finals of the US Open, she was in the semis playing Spurleya, and it was 6-all in the tiebreaker. And she was 10 feet off the court at Ashe Stadium, running and hitting a backhand ground stroke at 6-all in the breaker, way off the court. And she flipped that left-handed Compton roller, won that point. Spurleya double falls. VW goes to the finals to play Hingis. They interviewed her and they said, that was an amazing shot. You were 10 feet off the court. How did you make that shot? She goes, ever since I was a little kid, I was taught to run for every ball. So I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. Now, the fact she made it, that's icing on the cake. But the fact she's been there, that GPS already led her there when she was a little girl, way off the court. And she practiced that shot so many times. So you've been there, done that. That's a physical thing. But I have all the kids, before they serve, picture it, not there. I want them to hit it right there. There's a difference between focus and finite focus right there. Pick a spot. I just helped your golf game. Don't aim right there on the green. Don't aim at the green, right there. This is how the brain works. Narrow the scope, but it takes so much discipline. And as we all know, with human beings, they don't have discipline, but they'll want to complain about it. So visualization is huge. I got so many stories of people getting injured, taking a negative, turning it into a positive, training mentally every day till they get better with the injury, and they come back with a better percentage serve or better at shooting foul shots because they couldn't because they had 2 broken arms. I got so many stories like this, but people don't want to take the time. They'd rather complain about it. But visualization is huge because it presents calmness and, more importantly, confidence.
Rick, I can see Dr. Niva is testament to some of your philosophies on life, and she's live and she's here and she's talking to us. But was there an event or a person in your life that triggered this mindset and philosophy in you?
I'm not real sure. I grew up in a small town, Greenville, Ohio, 10,000 people, 30 miles southwest of Dayton, Ohio. My father passed away when I was 10 years old. It's a crazy story. I picked up a tennis racket. I was a very good golfer. Okay. Actually, I had a 4 handicap at 10. Listen to this. At 10, I could hit it like an arrow. And at 69, I hit it like a sparrow. So I don't have any control now. But back in the day, I thought I was going to be a pro golfer. I picked up a racket at 12. By 18, no lessons, #1 player in Ohio Valley. No lessons. I got pretty good pretty fast. So the mental part, I just did it on my own. And I love to compete. I did all sports. But if there would be one person, it would be Dr. James Lair. When I became director of tennis at Greenleaf Golf and Tennis Resort in 1980, he was the first of the Mohicans. He was the leader in sports psychology. Now, many people have rewrapped it, regurgitated it, and they got their own dog and pony show. Jim was the first, the best of the best. I spent a couple years with him doing stuff actually for the corporate structure, how to be better in business and how to get the most out of your employees, and some tennis stuff, slowing things down in your mind, all this stuff. So if there's one person that helped me more than anybody, and I learned, it'd be Dr. James Lair. But I've kind of had my own thing, simply kind of growing up. You learn the education as you go along, but Jim Lair is the best of the best.
I've actually had the good fortune to go to that facility he has in Miami about 20 years ago and experience it firsthand, the corporate athlete course. And it was, as you rightly say, then it was life-changing. It was for me anyway.
What I really liked about Jim, half the stuff he wrote, and then I read it, I didn't understand any of it. So I liked it even more. I said, that's the best thing I ever read, but I don't understand any of it. But once I did, bang, just another gold nugget that I could deliver to the people that I'm around.
Yeah, it's very powerful stuff. I think he was talking about purpose and life energy long before Simon Sinek was. But maybe just one final question, if we could, just to finish it up. And I'd like to ask both of you this question, please. But of course, ladies first, Dr. Niva. You're a long way from finishing as a neurologist. Potentially you might do something in life, but who knows? But I'm really keen to see and hear what you would hope is the legacy that you're leaving behind you through your work.
Absolutely. I love that question because I talked about the concept of if we want to, somehow die and come back and watch ourselves or change things in the world, that's, kind of what really motivates me. So the legacy I'd always want to leave is that if I can change somebody's life by somebody being aware that if they conquer their mind, they conquer the world. That's the most important statement. If I can change somebody's life, the way they think, they improve their life, they improve their quality of life, they make a difference in the world just by improving their thoughts. That's the most, I really think I've achieved a lot. And I think that if we can recognize that our minds are like computers, we're always programming computers. We don't really program our own mind for optimal success. We don't really even understand it. We don't spend time with it. We don't realize how powerful it is. And when we start doing that, each individual has such a brilliant, innate talent that we can give to the world. And when we recognize our talents, our gifts, and each one of us focuses on that, rather than focusing on the negativity or somebody else or hurting somebody or the gossip. I don't even understand that. But when we start focusing on making our talents come to life and we optimize our minds to do that and to optimize our abilities, and we make everybody in the world recognize that, we can make our world an amazing place. Honestly, like we all have talents. That's how people have invented the airplanes and the cars. And I think if we all use our minds and maximize our potential and reach our potential, wow, we can do incredible things.
And Rick, what do you hope is your legacy?
First off, you can imagine I've been asked that question a lot lately, and everybody's getting older, even me. So people have asked me that a lot, and they're probably a little surprised because at the end of the day, it's not about everybody's won a Grand Slam that maybe I've had my fingerprints on, or the #1s, or all these national titles, or Coach of the Year award. It's not that. It's just that father figure, a role model, okay? Someone who was always there delivering the goods and the consistency, the hard work, because people are usually identified by their accomplishments. That's what people are going to always look at. but I just want everybody, what would mean the most to me, whenever I was on that tennis court, my favorite student of all time, that hour, that minute, that second was who's on the other side of the net. And that comes from my heart.
Well, Rick and Dr. Niva, it's been wonderful getting to know you. Thank you so much for making the time to talk to us. The book is terrific. Everyone will enjoy it, no matter what they are doing with their life or what stage they're in. We'll put the notes. Yes, there it is. We'll put the notes in the show notes, and we'll put links up to the book as well. But thank you both for your time. Well, our evening and your, I don't know, morning, late night, whatever it is.
We're just getting
Time to go to work, okay? Time to go to work.
Just go to work, Dennis. Just what you have to clean. He sets up everything. There's a big tournament called the Battle of Boca, and so there's I don't know more than like 200 players there. They're competing for prize money, and Rick sets it up, and then he cleans. He picks up all the balls. And, he's like he said you're like a park ranger. He opens up the park right now. So
I'm exhausted just listening to you both.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
Exhausted. What time is it over there? Is it like nighttime?
5:45, 6 p.m. Yeah. I mean, I just like to say your enthusiasm and your is infectious, both of you. It's that's been a real great takeout from me after reading the book as well. So thank you. It's been great listening to you.
Send me your golf swing. I can figure that out too. I understand biomechanics. I can take it to another level.
I'll tell you, I think you could spend more time on everyone else rather than try to fix something that's ruined in the first place. But I'll look at it positively in the future.
There we go. I might have to change your mindset, a little attitude adjustment and have you look at things differently, but we'll figure it out.
Thank you both. Have a lovely day. Thank you both. Take care.
All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Jonathan, just hang on for a sec. Well, Jonathan, what did you think of Rick and Dr. Niva?
I mean, their enthusiasm, their bubbliness, and it was 3:00 in the morning their time. I just thought was unbelievable. So I thought that was spectacular. The other thing that came across is we're talking about a famous tennis coach, but that wasn't about tennis. That was about life. That was about, it could be your working environment. It was all embracing. It's how you live your life and having that positive attitude. I thought that was really fantastic about it. And I think that the third thing that I took out of it was what Dr. Niva was talking about. Spend more time thinking about yourself, not in a selfish way, but learning about yourself, loving yourself. Because often we criticize ourselves more than anything else, and that's what they were saying. But what about loving yourself? That's an important message as well.
It was. The energy coming from both of them was great. I feel like, well, it is raining in Sydney. I don't know if I'm going to go out and run a half marathon, but I do feel quite energized. But I loved this idea. It was Dr. Niva. She said, don't forget. She said, people forget to talk to themselves. I thought that was a fascinating idea.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it was, and that was all part of their visualization and that positivity and smiling every day. Because I think in the book it says if you smile regularly, you give yourself another couple of % of energy. It's something like it's how your body and your mind works.
Yeah. The other thing I found fascinating was the way that Dr. Niva has been able to fold competitiveness into what appears to be a very successful career. I mean, she's a Harvard educated, she's a neurologist, she's just written this great book. And I think this idea of competitiveness sometimes is difficult for female athletes in particular. We hear a lot of coaches play that back, but she seems to have found a way to fold that into her personality and her work in a very authentic way.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I found that was a very, very invigorating interview.
Well, I look forward to our next deep dive into a book that comes through to the podcast. I'm not sure who will come next. We get them through regularly. Perhaps it will be some far-flung sport from Europe. Who knows? But the tennis is on at the minute. And of course, I think everyone who's heard any of the names that Rick mentioned there will be very interested in the book. So thank you very much, Jonathan. Until next time.
Thank you. It was great. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Well done, mate. You happy with that?